Hello, welcome back guys to the next tutorial. Today we're going to discuss really important topic. So it's about exceptions and exceptions handling. So we really need to understand what this is. A lot of times in our coding we do mistakes and there are checked and there are like multiple sort of exceptions. We really need to handle our exceptions well so that user experience a proper thing and he doesn't have a bad experience using our application. There are certainly two kinds of exceptions. First is checked exceptions, and second is runtime exceptions. Uh, if I tell you what exceptions are, it is basically just a problem that happens in our program. It can either happen during coding, like before compiling, so our IDE can find out okay if it's an exception, or it can actually happen during runtime also. So something which happens during before compilation and it's the compilation check, then that is basically a checked exceptions because our IDE and compiler is checking for that, and we can certainly fix it before running our program. And there are runtime exceptions which are just caused by our bad programming skills. So sometimes let's say we are trying to divide something by zero, which is gonna show me some exception, and our compiler is not gonna catch that. It's gonna catch it only at the time of compiling, not at the time of runtime, not before compiling, not when we are typing it. So something like I have a item in my array and my array consists only 10 items and I'm trying to access the 11th item. At that point it's going to give me an exception because my array does not even contain the 11th item, right? So that is a runtime exception. So guys, let's first discuss checked exceptions with the help of a code, and maybe let's create a couple of classes. New class, maybe exception demo, main class, and let's create one more class. So what I'm gonna do is maybe account. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm just gonna create a small dummy application to withdraw some money from my account. So let's take some, let me just create a method, maybe public void and withdraw, and give some amount to withdraw. That's it. So before withdrawing, let's say my application is running a MySQL database. It is basically gonna access my database, pull out my account information, my balance, my account number, everything, and then do some calculations, and then basically gonna allow me to withdraw some money or not. So let's create a small method, maybe like a some which can handle some exception, right? So maybe public, which can handle some exception, which can demo some exception thing, and which throws some exception. So public, let's make it as a connection type because I'm going to create a connection to the database. So this program is kind of multi-teaching, so I'm going to teach you how to connect to a database also, and I'm going to teach you what exception handling is. So let's say public connection, maybe just name it as get connection, and this, and maybe just a return connection, something like that, and create a connection reference, maybe null at this point. Okay, it's gonna give me some things, okay, what I want, because the type cannot be resolved. So I'm just gonna import connection from my Java SQL inbuilt classes. I'm pretty much gonna import everything so it doesn't bother me later. So when I do connection equals to, the way I create a database connection is driver manager dot get connection. There are different overloads. I'm gonna use the third one, which says it's gonna require a URL, basically the address to my database, user password, which is the credentials to my database, and this method throws a SQL exception if you guys notice. So what does that mean? If at all Java faces any problem accessing my database or finding my database, it's gonna throw an exception that, okay guys, I have a problem. So basically it just throws a exception. It requires these three things. So first let's declare these three things: string URL. So URL is my database. What my URL is gonna be, guys? It's gonna be, because I'm saying it's a it's a MySQL, so JDBC, which is the driver for connecting to the databases, and MySQL address to my database. I'm here. You can provide the host name or IP address of the server where your database is residing. I'm just giving it localhost right now. I don't even have a database running on my localhost either, but I'm just giving it right now. And maybe my port 3306 for MySQL. This is the URL for my database. String user. Let's see, I have a very smart user called ABC, and string password. Very strong password as code. I'm just taking something. So I'm passing all these, right? Now what it's complaining for? See, again it's complaining. Complains too much, right? So it says unhandled exception type SQL exception. Alright, we saw that, right? This method throws a SQL exception, get connection. How we can fix it? When I do this, it gives me two options. Either I add a throws declaration, or I surround this with my try catch block. So when I throws declaration, that means this get connection method is just gonna declare that I'm gonna throw an exception if you don't handle this. That's it. So its job is done. What it does is it just add a throw SQL exception keyword in front of the method. So whenever I'm gonna call this method, it's just gonna say I'm gonna throw exception if it's not handled properly wherever the method is called. So now it becomes the responsibility where I'm calling the method to handle that exception. We are done from this side. So let's say I'm just providing an API to my other team. So my job is done that way. Now it's his job to completely handle that exception. So let's say I'm calling this connection method in my withdraw method, because first I'm going to create a connection to my account, and then only I'm going to withdraw some dollars, right? So again it says, okay, I have a problem, man. It says again unhandle exception type already. So let me again throw something, and I just want to throw the exception. It again adds a throw declaration that I'm going to throw a SQL type exception. It just does that, and then later I can maybe withdraw some amount or do something in the next line. Basically this is that. So let me call these in my other class account, maybe ACC equals to new account, and ACC dot withdraw some money. I want to withdraw a small amount like $100. So now it says unhandled exception type. See, it's propagating all those things, right? Here I just said, okay, I want to throw this SQL exception. Where I'm calling this, I said, okay, I'm going to throw this. I'm just going to warn my method which is going to use me that, okay, I throw a SQL exception if it's not handled properly. So it just declared that. Now in my some other classes main method where I'm calling this account.java, it's again reflecting, okay, I need to be handled because those methods throw a SQL exception. So if I just add a throws declaration, it gets rid of it. Now let's see what happens when I run it. So when I run it, oh my gosh, I handled it. Still it's showing me all these exceptions, right? It's these red color things which bothers me. What it does is it says no suitable driver found for JDBC MySQL. So there's no driver. It's gonna throw an exception. No server found, nothing. Where are the exceptions coming from? Exceptions demo.java line number 9. This represents the line number. Alright guys. So this is the same class, line number 9 is this. Now from where this is coming, it's coming from account.java line number 18. Alright, and from where it's getting from account.java from the get connection method line number 12. It's getting from there. See, it has propagated to the method from it where it's coming. So I definitely do not want to show these things to my user. I want to show something decent. What I can do in my method here is, instead of adding a throws SQL exception thing, I can just add a try catch block. When I do this, what it's gonna do is, it's gonna try the code in my try block, it's gonna run it. If it faces any exception, then it's gonna go into the catch block, which has the SQL exception type and kind of a declaration of E, which is gonna call all the methods from my SQL exception class. So SQL exception is again a class, and all the parents class for these exceptions is like exception class for all the checked exceptions. The parent class is exceptions class. Everything is derived from there. So the E is there. There are some methods like E dot print stack trace, which is still gonna do the same thing. So let me run this code, and it printed all the stack trace that we see before. So if we do not want to show these things to user, what we can do is maybe just handle these exceptions a little better way, like E dot, maybe I want to get some message, like E dot get message. So I can show to the user, okay, you failed because there's no suitable driver. I just want to show this thing. I do not want to show which line of code it's failing, and you don't need to panic that much. I can maybe give them some optional thing. Maybe the server is down right now, try again later, try again at some other point. So maybe I can just tell them, okay, right now the server is not accessible. I do not maybe even want to show what the issue is. I can say, yeah, just this, try again later, server is not accessible. So when I run this, he'll only see, okay, try again at some other point. That's it. So this is the way to handle exceptions, and if this thing is not happening, I want to handle the code nicely and do some other operations. So, two things we can do for checked exceptions: throws declaration or either a try catch block. Now with the try catch block, the catch block cannot exist without a try block. This is quite obvious, but just to show you guys, if I comment this out, it shows me again an issue that there is syntax error on the token catch because there is no try block. So I really need this for a catch statement. But for try, that's not the case. We have a finally keyword, which is quite handy in some cleanup situations, which always execute. Doesn't matter if the try block is executed or the catch block is executed, but finally always executes. So let me show this to you. Always executes. If I run this, see, try again at some other point, it went to the catch block because try is not successful, and always executes because it's in finally. So see, if I run this, let me show you how try works. First line. So this is my first line before trying the withdraw method, and this is my second. So maybe after trying the withdraw method. If I do this, notice guys, I'm running this. It says first line, it went into the try block, it executed this. When it came to the account.withdraw, it saw the exception. It didn't execute any code after this. This line is not printed, right? After trying the withdraw method, nothing is printed. It directly went to the catch block, it executed the commands over there, and then it went to the finally block. Let's say I'm not calling this, and I'm just calling the exception class because That is a parent class to every exception. And I am now running this code. What happens is, first line, after trying the withdraw method, this line is also executed because there's no withdraw method, and it doesn't execute this. Try again at some other point. Because the try was successful, it didn't go to the catch block, it now again came to the finally block, always executes. So either try is going to be executed or catch is going to be executed, but finally will always execute. And if we have a finally, we do not really need a catch block until we really want to handle something. So my code will run properly right now. See, exactly same. Try block is needed for a catch, but catch is not mandatory for a try. But try will also not run alone. Try needs either a catch or a finally. So simple to understand is catch needs a try needs either a catch or a finally. Usually we put on everything. So this is basically our try catch blocks. The way we can handle exceptions, show proper messages to the users, and make our program a little better, improve some of the coding skills. So this is pretty much it, guys, for this tutorial, because I'm thinking to make a different tutorial to cover the runtime exceptions, because otherwise it's gonna be too much to absorb. Right now it's okay, you guys can just practice something and do some coding. You can find this code on Udemy for reference and try some of your codes. I can give you some examples, like you can try to access a file, read a file using the file reader class of Java, and give a file path which does not exist, and you should be able to see a exception there and then try to handle it. That's one example to see checked exceptions. Maybe try that code and try to handle some exceptions. It's very important. You should be good, easy to absorb, and in next class we'll just cover the runtime exceptions. Thank you, guys. I would just say practice more, and thanks for attending.